Hey, I.III, it's Mr. Merriman here. So, as you know, obviously I'm not here today, Monday. So, I'm recording this on Friday after school so I can provide some lecture for Julius Caesar Act 1, Scene 3. And then we're going to cruise right through Act 2. So, you should have your purple books. If you don't, go ahead and get it. I'll give you like a second or two, maybe 10 seconds. Go get it. Okay, time's up. If you're still grabbing your book, just be quiet and listen as I'm explaining how today's going to work. Even though I'm not in the room, again, I'm going to give you instruction. I want you to listen. I'm going to reference page numbers. I'm going to talk to you, maybe ask a question and pause just so you can perhaps think about it. You can even answer to Miss McCrusick, whatever works. But I need you to listen because this is information that will, in one way or another, be on the midterm. Okay? So, magic number in the book is page 706. So, go ahead and open up to 706. I'll give you a second to do that. Cool. So, we're on page 706, and this is scene 3 from Act 1. If you remember earlier in Act 1, we are introduced to obviously Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Brutus, and Cassius. And we leave off with Brutus leaving Cassius with an essential, I'll think about it, as it pertains to overthrowing and assassinating Caesar. So he leaves, and Cassius, again, was left alone on the stage. We call that a soliloquy. And a soliloquy is when a character delivers lines on the stage by his or herself with no one else. And the purpose is to reveal a character's private thoughts and feelings. There are thoughts and feelings that you necessarily wouldn't say out loud, but because this is drama and theater, the character has to deliver the lines for us to hear. Okay? So we leave off there, and if you remember, Cassius has a plan to further manipulate Brutus, and he's going to write letters, supposedly by the Roman countrymen and people, and send them to Brutus in the hopes to flatter him further and to encourage him to join the conspirators in assassinating Caesar. So that takes us to scene 3. It's the night of March 14th. And remember, on March 14th, that's a day before the Ides of March, which is the day that Caesar is supposedly going to be assassinated. And if you look on 706, it reads, amid violent thunder and lightning, a terrified Casca fears that the storm and other omens predict terrible events to come. Cassius interprets the storm as a sign that Caesar must be overthrown. Cassius and Casca agree that Caesar's rise to power must be stopped by any means. Cinna, another plotter, enters and they discuss how to persuade Brutus to follow their plan. So it opens up, there's thunder and lightning. So on stage, you probably hear like all that crazy stuff. And Cicero runs to Casca. And what's happening here is there are a lot of crazy things going on in Rome, like cray cray things, because there's a lot of things that could be interpreted as bad omens. So if you look starting on line 15, um, beforehand, actually, Cicero asks, why? Saw you anything more wonderful? And Casca says, a common slave, you know him well by sight, held up his left hand, which did flame and burn like 20 torches joined, and yet his hand, not sensible of fire, remained unscorched. Besides, I have not since put up my sword against the Capitol. I met a lion who glared up at me and went surly by without annoying me. And there were drawn upon a heap 100 ghastly women, transformed with their fear, who swore they saw men all in fire walk up and down the streets. And yesterday the bird of night did sit, even at noonday, upon the marketplace, hooting and shrieking. When these prodigies do so conjointly meet, let man not say, these are their reasons, they are natural, for I believe they are portentous things unto the climate that they point upon. Rome and the Romans were really big on omens, really bad things that were going to occur that could be a bad sign for what's to come. So Casca's probably looking at this thinking that it's bad signs for trying to conspire against Julius Caesar. That's the idea here. You have a guy with his hand that's on fire, but it's not on fire. He just runs into a lion of all things, and the lion passes and he just says, "Stop," and it just kind of keeps going down the street. You have women saying that there's men walking up and down in fire, And then there's a bird that's meant for night in the middle of the day, just sitting around chirping, going, "Wah, wah, wah," or whatever during the day. So to him, these are bad signs for what's to come. So what he's really doing is double guessing whether or not this is a good idea to conspire against Caesar. So they keep talking, and they're going to talk about seeing each other tomorrow. Cicero leaves, and then Cassius gets on the stage, and Cassius runs into Casca. I know there's a lot of C's here. Don't get too confused. Cassius, Casca, and with Cena, I think of like John Cena. Beep, 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 beep. That helps you out too, in case you haven't need that little boost and little reminder. All right. So you have Casca and Cassius, and Cassius is talking to Casca, and Casca's like, "Man, you see what's going on here?" And Cassius, on line 45 on page 707, says the following: "Those that have known earth so full of faults, for my part, I have walked upon the streets, submitting me under the perilous night, and thus, on brace Casca, as you see, have bared my bosom to the thunder stone. And when the cross blue lightning seemed to open the breast of heaven, I did present myself even in the aim and very flash of it." What's it mean when you open up your bare bosom? You're literally just taking the shirt and you're just ripping it off. So Cassius sees the sky, the lightning, and everything. It's all crazy. And he's just like, "Ah!" as he's looking up towards the heavens. And Casca's like, "Are you crazy? Why would you do such a thing?" And Casca's like, "Well, why should I not? I find it amazing." And Casca's saying, "Well, these are really, really, really bad signs, aren't they? Isn't this a bad sign for what's to come?" And Cassis, being the smart dude that he is, has a good response. And it's on page 706. It reads as follows: "You are dull, Casca, and those sparks of life that should be in a Roman you do want, or else you use not. You look pale and gaze, and put on fear, and cast yourself in wonder, to see the strange impatience of the heavens. But if you would consider the true cause, why all these fires, why all these gliding ghosts, why birds and beasts from quality and kind, why old men fool and children calculate, why all these things change from their ordinance, these their nature perform faculties, to monstrous quality, why you shall find that heaven hath infused them with spirits to make them instruments of fear and warning unto some monstrous state." Monstrous state. State not as in like the state of Ohio, but the state of things, the state of being, the state perhaps of Rome. And he goes further. He says, "Now could I cast a name to thee a man most like this dreadful night, that thunders, lightens, opens graves, and roars, as doth the lion in the Capitol? A man no mightier than thyself or me, in personal action, yet prodigious grown, and fearful as these strange eruptions are." I wonder who he's talking about. He says, "I name a man most like this dreadful night, as doth the lion in the Capitol, a man no mightier than thyself or me." Who's that guy he keeps saying is no better than anyone else? Your friend and mine, Julius Caesar. So what he's saying is that all of this is because of Caesar and his terrible rule. That all these portentous bad omens are as a result of him, not a result of the conspirators trying to plot against him. So, again, what is he trying to suggest? Is that the bad omens will be lifted and stopped if the conspirators go through with their plan. And Cassius is like, "You mean Julius Caesar? That's who you're talking about?" And Cassius says, "Let it be who it is, for Romans now have thews and limbs like to their ancestors. But woe the while our fathers' minds are dead, and we are governed with our mothers' spirits. Our yoke and sufferance show us womanish." Our yoke and sufferance show us womanish. Our fathers' minds are dead, and we are governed with our mother's spirits. What is Cassius doing here? He is once again playing the gender card. Hot diggity dog, Casca. We used to be tough. We used to be men. Gosh darn it. But we are weak now. We don't think like men. We are soft like women. It shows us womanish. What has become of us? He's playing the gender card because, gentlemen in the room, you know darn well that it's very easy to be offended when someone comes up to you and says, "Stop playing like a girl. Stop acting like a woman." Now, is that sexist? Absolutely. Is it right? No. But remember, this is tone too. Shakespeare's not showing this to say that men shouldn't act like women or whatever. He's showing this to show you how Cassius thinks. And Cassius wants to be tough, he wants to be solid. And when you say that someone is feminine or the like, that can be a real downer. And he's trying to motivate the men around him to act up like men and go through with the plan. Okay? That's not the first time Cassius says something along these lines. And then Casca breaks the news that Caesar is actually going to be crowned king the next day in the Senate. And Cassius takes out a dagger. And this is 709, line 89. "I know where I will wear this dagger then. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius," meaning I will kill myself if that happens. And he goes on, because what he's saying is he'd rather be dead than be ruled by a king like Caesar. It's very dramatic. And he's really trying to show how dramatic he is here and how passionate he is about this topic. Okay. And Casca's like, "Oh, okay." And Caesar's like, "Well, and listen, why should Caesar be a tyrant?" This is 710, line 103. "And why should Caesar be a tyrant? Poor man, I know he would not be a wolf, but that he sees the Romans are but sheep. He were no lion, were not Romans' hinds. Those that with haste with a mighty fire begin it with weak straws. What trash is Rome? What rubbish and what a fall. So vile a thing as Caesar." He's using two metaphors here to compare Caesar. He's saying, one, he's like a lion, or excuse me, a wolf preying upon sheep, and the sheep would be the Romans. Or he's a lion preying upon a hind or hinds, which are female deers. He's making this idea presented that Caesar is a predator going after weaker kin. He's not a leader for the people, he's a leader who wants to destroy and ruin the people, is the point that he's getting. All right. And Casca finally is moved and he says, "You speak to Casca into such a man that is no fleeing. Hold my hand." He holds his hand. He's like, "I'm with you. I'm ready to fight with you, Cassius. Let's do this together." All right. And Cassius starts talking to Casca about the men who can join and everything. And they agree once again, like 7-Eleven, page 7-Eleven, not the gas station, that Brutus needs to join the conspirators because Brutus is admired by both Caesar and by the people. They won't see it coming. So Brutus has to join, and they agree with that. And they determine that they're going to talk. They're going to approach Brutus at his home and see what happens. Okay? And there we go. That is Act 1, Scene 3. So then we move into Act 2. And Act 2 is on page 714. Okay. Now it is a few hours before dawn on March 15th. So it's late night, early morning on the Ides of March. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about the Ides of March a little later in this. But it's the Ides of March, and Brutus is walking in his garden and he's talking. And then the conspirators come, and we see what eventually happens, the decision that Brutus eventually makes. At the beginning, he's walking, and Lucius is like the servant comes in, and they're talking, and he leaves, and Brutus has a soliloquy. And this is one of the most important soliloquies in the play, especially in Act 2. And it's another soliloquy that you need to know for the Brutus and Cassius analysis that I gave you last time. 714, starting with line 10. I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to follow along, and then I'll give you some feedback. So it starts line 10, Brutus. "It must be by his death, and for my part I know no personal cause to spurn at him, but for the general. He would be crowned, How that might change his nature, there's the question. It is the bright day that brings forth the adder and that craves weary walking. Crown him that, and then I grant we put a sting in him, that at his will he may do danger with. So look there, he says, and guys, use the notes to your advantage in the right hand margin. He says, I know no personal cause to spurn at him, but for the general. Okay, he says, um, that he doesn't have a personal grudge against Caesar. I'm just thinking for the general welfare. In other words, the general good of Rome is what he's saying. He's like, I don't have any personal issues. It's nothing personal. I just have to do what is best for Rome. That's his idea. And he says, what will happen if Caesar gets crowned? It brings forth the adder, and an adder is a snake, a poisonous snake. Okay. And if you give the snake power and give him trust, what can a snake do? Obviously, bite you in return. That's what he's worried about. So let's keep reading. And then it reads, the abuse of greatness is when it disjoins remorse from power. And to speak truth of Caesar, I have not known when his affections swayed more than his reasons. He's like, in all fairness, I don't know a time when Caesar let his emotions get the best of him. Caesar has ruled with a level head, he's ruled with reason. But even so, he says, but 'tis a common proof that lowliness, being at the bottom, is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face. But when he once attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks in the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did descend. So Caesar may. This is an extended metaphor. What's it being an extended metaphor for? Alex? I don't know if he answered or not. I just wanted to throw you guys off. But anyway, he's comparing this to a ladder. And a ladder is always a symbol of ascension. Climb the ladder, kid, keep climbing, and all that good stuff. So we have this ladder, and he's comparing Caesar going up the ladder. And when you're at the bottom of the ladder, what might you do? Turn around and wave to the people beneath you. Oh, hello. And you keep going. And you keep going and keep going. But then when you reach the top rung, what are you going to do? Well, what you're probably going to do, as Brutus suggests, is you look up towards the clouds and you don't look back where you came from. He words it as the base degrees by which he did descend. So what he's really worried about is if you keep climbing and you keep getting power, that's what's at the heart of this. Power, you're going to forget about everyone beneath you and you're going to do what you want to do. That's what he's worried about. But then he goes even further. This is line 28. Then lest he may prevent, and since the quarrel will bear no color for the thing he is, fashion it thus, that what he is augmented would run to these and these extremities, and therefore think him as a serpent's egg, which hatched would as his kind grow mischievous, and kill him in the shell. He's using another metaphor here. Think of Caesar as a snake still in its egg. And if it's still in its egg, what should you do before? And he uses the word mischievous. We think of mischievous like mischief, but in this context, it's a little bit different. What should you do with a snake in its egg shell? It's still in its shell before it gets too much power and gets carried away. What should you do? You should kill it. Kill it before it hatches. So he's saying we need to kill him before he is coronated as king and gets too much power. That's the idea here. That's what Brutus is suggesting. But then when you look further, Lucius comes in with the letter. Brutus gets the letter and reads it, and it's the bottom of 715. Brutus, thou sleepest, awake and see thyself. Shall Rome, etc., speak, strike, redress. Brutus, thou sleepest, awake. They're saying, Brutus, wake up. You're legit. You're the man. Do something. We cannot be ruled under Caesar. And remember, who wrote the letter? It's Cassius. Cassius is the one who's writing these letters disguised as Roman citizens to win Brutus over. Brutus has a moment here, and he again acknowledges something Cassius acknowledged earlier in the play. My ancestors did from the streets of Rome the Tarquin drive when he was called king. His ancestors drove away the last king of Rome before it became like a republic. And he says one thing. He says, O Rome, I make thee promise. This is on page 716, line 56 and 57. If the redress will follow, thou receivest thy full petition at the hand of Brutus. And look at the note in the right-hand margin again, 54 and 55. He refers to his ancestors, and then he says, I promise you, Rome, if amenity for our troubles can follow from my action, you will get what you need from Brutus. If I can help Rome by killing Caesar, that's what I'm going to do. This is what's really important here, guys and girls. Brutus is saying this in the privacy of his own home. He is not saying this with the conspirators around him. Notice that Cassius has a moment to his soliloquy where he says stuff alone. And notice that Cassius says, Brutus is an honorable man. He's very noble, but he can still be manipulated, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Brutus, though, his intentions don't seem, as we use like a word, nefarious. His intentions seem noble, right? I need to do this for Rome. I need to protect Rome from Caesar. And you have my word, Romans. And he's not even talking to anyone. He's just thinking out loud here. You have my word that if this can be a cure to our issues, then I'm going to do it. That seems a lot more sincere than Cassius, doesn't it? It seems a lot less, maybe political, but he seems very honest and sincere in his motives, especially because, again, he's speaking in the privacy of his own home. That's important here. All right. So then it's March 15th, and then we get some knocking and all this stuff. And Cassius and everyone's at the door. So here come the conspirators. We can rush a little bit to page 717. Cassius, Casca, Dacius, Sina, Metellus Cimber, and Trebonius. And they're talking, and Brutus has been up all night. And Cassius is like, hey, I have all these guys. Can they come in here? He's like, yes, they can come in. So basically, the idea is that Brutus is now all in. Brutus is ready to join the conspirators in doing this. And they're ready to do the deed and assassinate Caesar. All right? And what they do when they say that, they present an oath. And before they're like, let's do an oath for each other. We're making an oath for each other that we're going to do this in 718. And Brutus says, no, not an oath. Let's not do it just for us. Let's do it for everyone. The sad faces of the people we see, our own pain, our own suffering, all that stuff. Let's swear for the goodness of Rome. Again, he is focused on the country, or the city of Rome, rather, the empire. He's not just doing it necessarily for himself, if that makes any sense. Okay. Then if you turn to page 720, we have further conversation. They talk about like all these guys, if they should join or not, like Cicero and company, they're irrelevant. What's at the heart is 720. The question is raised by Dacius. It's 154. Shall no man else be touched but only Caesar? And Cassius says, Dacius, well urged, good question. I think it is not meet Mark Antony, so well beloved of Caesar, should outlive Caesar. We shall find of him a shrewd contriver, and you know his means, if he improve them, may well stretch so far, as to annoy us all, which to prevent, let Antony and Caesar fall together. Dacius is asking, should we kill someone else other than Caesar? And who does Cassius suggest? Mark Antony. He thinks that Mark Antony is bad news and that Mark Antony can be trouble for the conspirators if he is not killed along with Caesar. He calls him shrewd, a contriver. He can win people over through sneaky, smart means, is what he means. Brutus, however, responds as follows, starting with our course will seem too bloody. Our course will seem too bloody, Caius Cassius, to cut the head off and then hack the limbs, like wrath and death and envy afterwards. For Antony is but a limb of Caesar. Let us be sacrificers, but not butchers, Caius. We all stand up against the spirit of Caesar. In the spirit of men there is no blood. Oh, that we then should come by Caesar's spirit and not dismember Caesar. But alas, Caesar must bleed for it. And gentle friends, let's kill him boldly, but not wrathfully. He's saying that would be too much blood. He doesn't want it to look like a massacre. He wants it to seem as though they are killing Caesar because they have to. So if you look on 721, it says, let's carve him as a dish fit for the gods. A dish fit for the gods is like a sacrifice, not hew him as a carcass fit for hounds. Let's not dismember him and make a whole bloody mess. And let our hearts, as subtle masters do, stir up their servants to an act of rage and after seem to chide them. This shall make our purpose necessary and not envious. Let's do this out of necessity and make it look like we killed him because we had to, not because we were envious or jealous of him. I wonder who's envious or jealous of Caesar. Okay. That's what Brutus is suggesting. So he says, Mark Antony, think none of him. He can't do anything. He says that he's like Caesar's arm, and if Caesar's the head of like this figurative body and it's cut off, he can't do much. He says, no, let's not do it. And then Cassius goes, I don't know. I'm really afraid of him. And Brutus says, 185, alas, good Cassius, do not think of him. If he loves Caesar, all that he can do is to himself take thought and die for Caesar. And that were much he should, for he is given to sports, to wilderness, and much company. And they're like, okay, it's settled then. And one guy finally says, don't let Antony die. We're just going to kill Caesar. Spoiler alert, this is the downfall of the conspirators. The mistake that Brutus makes, as we will see on Wednesday, the mistake that he makes is letting Mark Antony go alive. And that will come into fruition for Act 3. Hint, hint. So we keep going. It's time to part the clock strikes 3. They're talking about Cassius is worried if Caesar will go. He knows Caesar can be a superstitious guy. And if these bad omens will deter him from going to the Capitol and going to see the Senate. And Decius is given the duty of going there and persuading and luring Caesar out of his home to actually go and go to the Senate, essentially to his death, is what Decius has committed to do because he's a close friend with Caesar. All right, that's on 721. If you turn further, though, we're in 722. And the morning, it's now becoming morning. And Brutus says, guys, look happy. Don't give up your guard. Don't blow your cover. Look like nothing's going on. And they leave. And then Brutus thinks he has a break, and in comes his wife, Portia. Portia's like, honey, what's going on? And Brutus is like, well, where'd you come from? And he's worried that she's overheard him. But thankfully she hasn't. And she said, what's wrong with you these past few days? You are not yourself. And Brutus says, as he does to Cassius, I'm just not well. She's like, no, it's more than that. There is something really wrong with you. What's going on, dear? And Portia says, is Brutus sick? And she keeps going. This is on 723. She's like, tell me, darn it, what's wrong? And he's not budging. And she's like, am I not your wife? Aren't you going to tell me your secret? And Brutus doesn't budge. And if you look on 725, here's what she says. Starting with if this were true, this is line 291. If this were true, then I should know this secret. I grant I am a woman, but withal a woman that Lord Brutus took to wife. I grant that I am a woman, but withal a woman well reputed, Cato's daughter. Think you I am no stronger than my sex, being so fathered and so husbanded? Tell me your counsels, I will not disclose them. Hey, I'm a woman, I get that, but I'm your wife, and I deserve to know what's going on, is what she's saying. And you need to tell me, and I won't share your secrets. She goes, I've made strong proof of my constancy, giving myself a voluntary wound here in the thigh. Can I bear that with patience and not my husband's secrets? Look what I did. I just cut myself to show you that I'm serious. And tell me, what's your secret? And he's like, oh my gosh, I don't know anyone as lovely as you, dear. He's trying to kill time and not say anything, but then there's a knock on the door. What do you know? There's someone at the door. I gotta go get it. So Brutus goes running, thank God, to the door, and it is Lucius and Caius. And Caius is going to join the conspiracy too. And Brutus says, then let us go. And they leave together, and that is the end of scene 1 of Act 2. So now the question becomes, what happens in scene 2? Well, we're about to find out, and this deals with Julius Caesar and his home. So now it is past dawn on March 15th. Caesar is home. He is in his nightgown, and he says right again, 726, the first lines of scene 2. Nor heaven nor earth have been at peace tonight. Thrice hath Calpurnia in her sleep cried out, help, ho, they murder Caesar. Who's within? And the servant comes. And the servant tells Caesar that the priests have come with results. They've done a sacrifice to an animal. Caesar is so worked up by these bad omens, and apparently his wife is feeling the same way in her dreams, that we have this servant come, and they're performing a sacrifice on an animal to see if they can get a sign of whether or not it's a good idea to go to the Capitol today to see the senators. Okay? And Calpurnia is hellbent on Caesar not going. So, like, starting on page 727, it's a little bit before Calpurnia says, what mean you, Caesar? Think you walk forth? She's like, you ain't leaving today. It's too dangerous, honey. And he goes, come on. I'm Julius Caesar. I'm going to the Capitol today. Nothing's going to stop me. All right? And she goes, look, Caesar, my dear, I've seen a lot of omens in my life, and I haven't taken them seriously. But I'm telling you right now, these omens are bad news. Please, please, please don't go. Okay? And as she says that, she's talking like, hey, there's something happening. There's really bad omens. And he says, line 27, what can be avoided, whose end is purposed by the mighty gods? Whenever you talk about like gods and things that are purpose, you're talking about fate. What can stop someone dying? All right. Yet Caesar shall go forth, for these predictions are to the world in general as to Caesar. Hey, I'm going to go because it doesn't mean that these are bad omens against me. These could just be bad omens in general. And she goes, well, wait, when's the last time like a comet flew over as to give a bad sign for a beggar? Usually these are bad omens that someone of high status is going to die. And gosh darn it, honey, that person's you. I know it's you. And Caesar says the following, and we've read this before in the iambic pentameter presentation. Bottom of page 727. Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once. Of all the wonders that I have yet heard, it seems to me most strange that men should fear, seeing that death, a necessary end, will come when it will come. I don't know why people are so scared of death. The valiant, the brave like me, taste death one time because we're not afraid of it. Whatever happens, happens. Okay, it comes when it comes. Why are you so crazy? And I don't think that Caesar, I'm sure the idea of something bad happening has crossed his mind here, but it doesn't. I think the idea is just whatever happens, happens. It'd be like me saying, look, my time comes when it comes. I could leave Twinsburg High School right now and get in a car accident, and that could be the end. And if that's the end, then that's the end. He's saying, what should I make of it? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But then the servant comes back with the priest. He's like, all right, so what's the symbol, the sign? And on 728, he says, they would not have you stir forth today, plucking the entrails of an offering forth. They could not find a heart within the beast. They're saying, don't go. We can't find this heart looking through the, the entrails. It is not a good idea to go outside today. And then Caesar says a heck of a line on line 41. The gods do this in shame of cowardice. The gods do this in shame of cowardice. What is he saying about the gods? He's saying they're cowards. He is putting himself above the gods here. Now, whatever you believe or whatever in mythology, that's a huge no-no. But he's doing it. And he says Caesar should be a beast without a heart if he should stay at home today for fear. I don't have a heart if I just stay home because of some bad sign. No, Caesar shall not. And here comes I really think this is the badass line of the play. Man, I want to put this on a t-shirt. Look here. Danger knows full well that I totally ruined that. Danger knows full well that Caesar is more dangerous than he. Who is Caesar saying he's more dangerous than? Danger. He is personifying danger here. Danger knows that I am more dangerous than danger. Hot diggity dog. That's like Baker Mayfield waking up before the Falcons game saying, I feel dangerous this morning. But that's 10 times better because isn't that just a kick arse line? It's oh, yeah, Caesar, get it. Okay? And he says, no, I'm going to go. Calpurnia now, I think in a moment of desperation, says, honey, please, don't go. Just say that I said that you shouldn't go, that I think it wasn't a good idea. Now, do you think Caesar's really going to say that my wife doesn't want me to come because of some bad omens? No, because she's inferior, right? Unfortunately, she's a female at this time. So he's like, okay, fine, I won't go. I'll just tell Mark Antony to tell everyone that I'm sick. All right. But then Dacius, and remember, what's Dacius's function? What is his mission? To lure Caesar out of the home to the capital, to essentially meet his death. So Dacius comes and he says, good morning, I come to get you. And Caesar goes, thank you, but I'm not coming in today. All right. And tell them so. And Calpurnia says, say that he's sick. And he says, I never said I was sick. He says, no, Dacius, go tell him that Caesar's just not coming. I'm not coming today because I don't want to. Remember, Caesar, his flaw is that he wants to come across as strong as possible. He doesn't want people to think that he's sick. He wants people to think that he's strong. He's like, no, I'm just not coming because I don't want to because I'm the ruler of Rome. And then Dacius says, most mighty Caesar, let me know some cause, lest I be laughed at when I tell them so. And Caesar says, the cause is I just don't want to. Screw that. I just don't want to come. He goes, that will be enough for the Senate. But for your reason, I'll tell you why. And he actually tells him why Calpurnia doesn't want him to go. Because he entrusts his friend because he's a close friend. And he says the following on 730, top of the page, very first line on the page. Because I love you, I will let you know. Calpurnia here, my wife, stays me at home. She dreamt tonight she saw my statue, which like a fountain with 100 spouts did run pure blood, and many lusty Romans came smiling and did bathe their hands in it. And these does she apply for warnings importance and evils imminent. And on her knee hath begged me that I will stay at home today. So she has a dream of a statue, and the statue has spouts of blood coming out of it. And the Romans are coming and they're washing their hands in the blood. And he goes, that to her is a really bad omen, and she wants me to stay home. Dacius is like, wait a minute, that dream's just misinterpreted. Come on, Caesar, that's not true. And if you look on 730, I.III, this dream is all misinterpreted. It was a vision, fair and fortunate. Your statue spouting blood in many pipes in which so many smiling Romans bathe signify that from you great Rome shall suck reviving blood. That's a sign of growth, that the blood of life is flowing in Rome and Rome will be fine. That it's not a big deal. She just misread that dream. You're good to go. Let's go to the Senate House. Okay, and Caesar's like, well, that is a good point. And then Dacius says, and this is the kicker, he says, I have, when you have heard what I can say and know it now, the Senate have concluded to give this day a crown to mighty Caesar. Oh, so this is the day you're going to get crowned. If you shall send them word you will not come, their minds may change. Oh, if you don't come, you might not get crowned. Besides, it were a mock act to be rendered for someone to say, break up the Senate till another time, when Caesar's wife shall meet with better dreams. Oh, there's that little gender card again. Hey, we can meet again when Caesar's wife has him stay home because she's having bad dreams. What do you mean, Caesar? Does your wife have you wrapped in a chain? Is there a chain around your neck and she pulls you around because she had a bad dream and she wants you to stay home? Oh, but it gets worse. Then he says, if Caesar hide himself, shall they not whisper, lo, is Caesar afraid? Ooh, that would be bad news as well, right? He's playing the card like, are you weak? Are you scared, Caesar? Are you scared? And then he says, pardon me, Caesar, for my dear, dear love to your proceeding bids me tell you this. And reason to my love is liable. Look, I don't mean any harm. I'm not trying to get under your skin. I'm saying this out of love. And Caesar, though, is convinced. He's like, hot damn! How foolish do your fears seem now, Calpurnia. I am ashamed I did yield to them. Give me a robe, for I will go. He's like, hot damn, I'm going. Your dream was stupid, Calpurnia. I am leaving. And there is the fateful decision that Caesar makes. Dacious, mission accomplished. And we are now going to look into the fateful day of March 15th. It is going to happen. And here come all the other people and all the conspirators just at the right time. Oh, hello, Caesar. And they come in. Good morning, Caesar. Welcome, Publius. And then Brutus comes in. And then Antony. And he's like, all right, guys, let's go. I need to talk to you guys about business. Let's get ready to go to the house. All right. And he goes to two people, be near me that I may remember you. This is on 731. And Trebonius says, Caesar, I will. But then he has what's in italics known as an aside. An aside is a line that a character may deliver to another character or to the audience that no other character picks up on the stage. Now remember the suspension of disbelief. The idea that, yeah, the actors are going to hear the character, but their characters don't hear him. So Trebonius, at this point, I would imagine, would look at the audience and say, and so near will I be that your best friends shall wish I had been further. I'll be really close, Caesar, but I'm going to be close because I'm going to kill you. And then Caesar goes, all right, let's taste some wine. Let's party a little bit. And we, like friends, will straightway go together. And then Brutus now has an aside that every like is not the same, O Caesar. The heart of Brutus yearns to think upon. And look at the note. It reads, the fact that we behave like friends doesn't mean we are friends. My heart grieves to think of it. Brutus knows here that this is the end. And he says, we may be acting like friends now, but we are not friends today. And my heart grieves because Brutus knows what he has to do, or what he thinks he has to do. Kill Caesar. And that's very heavy on his heart. All right? That's the end of scene 2. Scene 3 and scene 4, the nice thing is that there's literally 3 pages. They are very short scenes. They are solely meant to build suspense. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. Just build suspense. And that's what it does. Scene 3, we have this supporter of Caesar named Artemidorus, this random guy, write a letter, and he's by the steps of the Capitol. You can read the letter there, but he's basically saying, beware the conspirators. It's bad news. Okay? And he says, gosh, I'm going to stand here until Caesar passes along with all these people. And I hope I can give him this note and that he will read the note and take heed. Gods, please make this happen. He is worried. He knows about the conspiracy. He wants to give Caesar a letter to let him know. Scene 4, though, it's Portia. Again, Brutus's wife, and she's worried sick. She goes up to Lucius and she goes, run to the Senate house, get thee gone. What dost thou say? And she's like, go see what's going on. I know something really bad's going to happen. All right, so Lucius goes. And then who comes, though? But the soothsayer, the guy who warned him about the Ides of March. And again, this is March 15th. And she goes, it's 9 o'clock. Has Caesar gone to the Capitol? He goes, not yet, but I'm going to take my stand and see what's going to happen. And she goes, do you think something really bad's going to happen? And the soothsayer says, I don't know one way or another, but I have a good feeling that something really bad will occur. Okay? And she goes, do you know of any harm? He's like, no, I'm not sure of any danger, but I fear that some may chance to happen. And he goes, the problem is the street's so narrow. Caesar's going to walk down the street. There's going to be all these people waving to him. And if he's not careful, someone can easily kill him with that mass of people. So I'm going to see what occurs and just keep an eye. Again, something bad might happen. All right. And then essentially she goes, um, man, I just hope everything's okay. She's just worried because she knows something's going to go down. This scene is simply meant to build the suspense of what's going to occur in Act 3, and that is Act 2. Okay? So at this time, you'll probably be getting ready for lunch. What you can do when you come back, remember we had the Julius Caesar chart with the terms like tragic hero and all that good stuff? What you want to do is you want to fill out a side and soliloquy there, okay? And then if there is time, there should be, you can work on the second part with Brutus, of the Brutus and Cassius analysis. You did Cassius, now you're going to do Brutus. That's not due at the end of the block. The big thing for homework, there's no homework other than the Of Mice and Men essay if you didn't complete it, okay? I encourage you to look at the model example for MLA format. If you need help with that, just shoot me a reminder or a message or even an email. I can check it and help you with that. You should be in good shape. All right. That's your priority. So finish that chart. If you didn't finish the Act 1 study guide, do that and then work on the Brutus, and you can work in pairs. All right. If you don't finish it by the end of the block, that's okay because you're going to have like a half hour. But the first thing I would do is write down the definition of an aside and a soliloquy. And if you need to look in the actual book, you can find that information. Oh, it's on page 686 and 687. Okay? Thanks for listening. Be good to the sub, especially be good to Miss McCrusick, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Ciao.